What's up, guys? Welcome back to the weekly scraps. We got UFC 296 right around the corner, and I'm super excited about this. I don't know about you guys, but this is a big, massive event. I'm here looking at the card right now, and I am just blown away by how powerful this card is. I'm saying powerful with like a big P, baby, a big P, because we bought them P's, yes? We bought them P's, bruv. And we got the London boy them on this card. We got Paddy the Baddy. And then we have also, well, he's not Londonish, but he's from the UK. You guys know what I mean. We got Paddy the Baddy on this card. We got Leon Edwards, Mr. Rocky himself. So this is a very, very fun fight. I can't wait to see how this one goes. I can't really call it, but this is going to be a fun one. I know the fans are going to love this. And, of course, let's get right into the mix, right? Shall we? Shall we? Like, what are we waiting for? What on earth are we waiting for? Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. There's multiple reasons why this one is a very intriguing fight. For me, Colby hasn't fought in such a long time, and that's what this whole thing is for me. Is it going to be the same Colby Covington that looked really good against Kamaru Usman both times? Now, I know the first fight, people are going to say he got finished, but guys, come on. Give it a break. Give it a break. I think we can mostly agree, like, in that position, you could say he was hurt and all the damage, but in that sequence, stopping the fight right then and right there was kind of odd, especially when the guy was in on a single leg. He wasn't out. He was still moving. And as soon as the ref stopped the fight, he looks at him, gets up, and is like, bro, if the guy was getting punched out, okay, cool. He was getting punched out. He couldn't do anything. He was tucking his head so that he couldn't get hit. So he was reacting. But the point still remains of what we're talking about is he gave him a run for his money. And I know people try to say Colby Covington's claim to fame is he had two really close fights with Kamaru Usman. That's a shitty thing for people to kind of lean on because it is trying to discredit him, where most guys who fought Kamaru Usman, they lost. So if you're going to try to come at him for having a close fight, I think it's a little premature in my personal opinion. I think you could reasonably give him his flowers. I mean, you could say you don't like the guy, but you got to give him his flowers. Like, the guy has been one of the most winningest fighters out there, and he's fought the who's of that division. And I think Leon Edwards actually pointed out something that he hasn't beaten anybody younger than 35, and that's fair. He is the guy that's going to be facing him next, right? So I think that's more than fair for a guy like that to say something like that, compared to a lot of the other people where I'm like, yo, guys, he still climbed through the gauntlet to get to the top of the division, so you kind of got to give the respect where it's due. So now with the matchup, again, I don't know if this is going to be the same Colby Covington of old. Will he be able to keep that pressure, stay inside of the face of Leon Edwards, and be able to constantly just march him down, throw those punches in his face to keep him guessing? And that's where the big question mark comes for me. We haven't seen him in action in a very long time, and I don't quite know if he's going to be able to have that same tenacity that we know him for. And that's the question mark that I'm trying to figure out. We know what his game is. We know what he's looking to do already. And I think if he can go out there and just be the same Colby Covington that we've known. I know that whole incident with Masvidal, I believe they said he had something, a chip tooth or something. Either way, the fight from Masvidal, jump, fight, whatever you want to call it, he's been out for a very long time since that whole situation, the court and everything. Maybe that's why he didn't fight. I have no idea. Maybe he was really messed up from it. I have no idea. All we can do is speculate. And I got to say, if it's the same Colby Covington that fought Jorge Masvidal, that fought Robbie Lawler, that fought RDA, that fought Damian Maia, that fought Kamaru Usman, this is going to be a tough fight for Leon Edwards. I'm not saying Colby wins, but there's a very good chance that the universe has somewhat aligned for Colby Covington to become a UFC champ. Although losing to Kamaru Usman twice, and then Leon Edwards beating Kamaru Usman twice. So it's this weird thing. Sometimes we have this in wrestling matches, right? Where we have this common opponent where one guy just seems to get the best of the other constantly, and then another guy is able to beat that guy. But then this guy is able to come in and beat the guy who was able to beat this guy that guy couldn't beat. I know that was a lot. So A could beat B, but B could beat C, but C could beat A. This is why I love the sport, because you just never know what's actually going to happen till you step in there and compete. And I can't wait to see what this is going to look like. I think Leon, so sharp, so crisp. We see him on the pads when he's da-da-da-da, hitting elbows, kick, clean, precise. He fights pretty. And this is one of the things, and believe it or not, this is one of the things I was joking around with somebody, and I was saying, I was like, one thing about us black folks, I feel like we like to fight pretty, bro. We just do. You look at Devin Haney, you look at Floyd Mayweather, you look at myself, you look at Tyron Woodley, you look at John Jones. John Jones has been in a war, though. But for the most part, us brothers, except for Michael Perry. Mike Perry, he's a little bit different kind of a brother. You know, he likes to get in the nitty-gritty and the meat and potatoes of that whole thing, you know. He likes to get down in that dog fight. Now, for us other brothers, for the most part, most of us like to fight pretty. We like to touch and can't be touched. That's most of our style. For the most part, guys, I know I'm generalizing here, but if you look at what I'm talking about and just look at it, and you're going to be like, maybe there's something to this. So, with that being said, Leon Edwards fights pretty. Colby Covington fights dirty. He's a dog. He's going to be in your face. He's willing to bleed. And I'm not saying Leon ain't willing to go there, because he is. But if he has the option, if I'm going to fight pretty and style on you, he's going to fight pretty and style on you. You give him that opportunity. You give him the space. That's what he likes, and that's where he's strongest. And I think his footwork is pretty solid, where he's able to cut angles, find his angles to land that stiff jab and to land that hard cross and to land those southpaw body kicks. I think that's what Colby's going to need to deal with, in the sense of can he handle that adversity and get through that fire to the point where he can cross that. Like, there's a line, right? We call it like you call it like the 1, 2, or 3. Or you could call it A, B, and C points of fighting, and you got to be willing to cross that distance, that threshold, in order to close the gap, to get to that 3 range or that C range. A is like in space, like, where like kickboxing, kicks predominantly land, or I can slip and rip. Where you're in the pocket, that's more of like a 2 B range. And then 3 is like the clinch, we're engaged, we're like elbows, knees. That's the type of attacks you're going to land in those sequences and that type of space. So with that said, that's where Colby needs to get. He needs to get to that 3 range. He could sit there and box at you in the 2 range, but let's be honest, Leon is the cleaner striker. He's the more comfortable striker, and he's been doing it for a lot longer. And I think that's where Colby's going to have a little bit of an issue trying to figure out, okay, if this is going to be tough, I got to figure out my ways of closing that gap and getting to that 3 range, C range, so that I can get in close, attack the legs. But I got to use it with punches. I can't just go in there and shoot. He's got to set it up with punches. And if a big, strong guy like Kamaru Usman had a hard time getting down Leon, does that mean Colby is going to have just as hard of a time? I don't know. I think it's very different styles. Colby has very different, unique attacks when he's attacking on the cage. He has you pressed up against the cage. I think the difference when he fought Usman is that Usman is a big, strong anti-wrestler and can use the wrestling when he wants to. Leon knows how to use the anti-wrestling, but he's not more of a wrestler type of guy, where if Usman was able to take down Colby, now Usman's playing Colby's game and gives him an opportunity to kind of reverse the position. So smart to just, I'm going to neutralize your wrestling, and we're going to stand here and figure it out on the feet. Now, Leon, it's not the wrestler. I mean, even though he got the takedown, he got the full mount in the first round against Usman, right? So you got to give him some credit. I'm not saying he's a complete dud, but you got to lean towards the guy with the offensive wrestling. Can Leon keep him off of him and stop the chain wrestling attacks of Colby Covington? And that's the question mark that we're going to be looking forward to on December, I think 16th. Let me not butcher that. Let me take a look. I think it's December 16th. December 16th. Now, this podcast is brought to you guys by DraftKings Sportsbook. So, with that being said, I got to give you guys the odds for this one. So, for this main event, Leon Edwards is, let me see, this is 148, minus 148 for Leon Edwards, plus 124 for Colby Covington. So, for me, the way I look at that, it's a very close line, but they're giving a slight edge to Leon Edwards. There's something to be said about when you win the belt, I feel like you level up. Now, in my case, I won the belt by disqualification. I didn't feel like I leveled up shit. I felt like I'd been the champ when I fought Corey Sandhagen, but then I had a shitty fight the next one, right? Which was the first Jan fight. So, for the most part, the rule of thumb is when you win the belt, there's like this extra percentage or experience that you gain for whatever reason. I think Teddy Atlas said it. I think Joe Rogan said it. And I think they were saying it that Teddy Atlas said it or something along those lines, or Daniel Cormier, whichever. Don't quote me. But that's what predominantly people say. You kind of get like your peacock feathers. And I think Leon Edwards is kind of in that mode right now. He's in that groove. And that's what I love about him right now. I think he's feeling it. I think he knows who he is. He's comfortable in his own skin. And with that being said, it is a tough fight for Colby Covington coming off such a long layoff. Is he going to have ring rust? Is he going to be able to keep that same pace? We don't know. He's getting up there in age. Let's take a look. Colby Covington. Colby Covington. Colby Covington. Let's take a look. He's 35 years old, man. It's been a while. He hasn't fought since Masvidal in 2022 of March. So it's been quite the layoff. He hasn't been very active. And before that, he fought Kamaru Usman in November. I mean, that's a little bit close to the Masvidal fight, but good fight for Colby. So, I don't know. At this age, can Colby Covington still show that dog in him? Like, look at this. Can he still show that dog in him? He's okay and willing to live there. Remember what I said about wanting to fight pretty and vice versa. And I think Colby Covington is comfortable enough to want to do that. So, again, with that being said, minus 148 for Leon Edwards, plus 124 for Colby Covington. Mr. Chaos. I can't wait for this fight. This is going to be such a good fight, man. I really do believe that. Leon Edwards, how old is he? He's 32. Not that old. Still relatively young. Got the belt at a really good age. He's like right in those prime years. I would say he's got at least a good 2-3 year run. And, I mean, we've seen Glover Teixeira do it at a much later age. But on average, this is where he's got to strike while the iron's hot kind of a thing, you know? So I'm very much looking forward to this. And obviously, Colby Covington, U.S., American-made. And then Leon Edwards, born in Jamaica, grew up in the U.K. I love that, man. And this is a tough fight because I respect both of these guys. Both of these guys have been through some shit to try to get to this position. And Colby, somehow, some way, as DC said, there's no one who's done more with less than Colby Covington that he could think of. And I agree. He's not the most physically gifted guy. He's not the biggest guy at welterweight. He's not the strongest. He's not the fastest. But this mofo works hard. And he's a dog. He's just willing to go to those depths and those places to try and get that win and get his hand raised. And you got to respect that. And I think Leon needs to make sure he's mentally prepared to go 5 rounds just in case Colby doesn't go away when he puts some good shots on him. So I'm looking forward to this, man. That's a big fight. I'm super excited about it, and I cannot wait. Now, remember, if you're going to sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook, use my promo code ALJO when you get there. That's one of the things that we got going on. My promo code ALJO. DraftKings Sportsbook is the way. Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. This is a really good fight. Pantoja first defense coming up in Brandon Royval. I think this is gonna be an amazing fight. Now Royval, Mr. Raw Dog, he's fun to watch, dog. I mean, at the end of the day, this guy brings it. He kind of reminds me of a Tim Elliott, just not as I don't want to say quirky, but not as not as random. He's not hitting that many different buttons on the controller type of thing. But he's a good fighter, man. And I think his unpredictability is what makes him dangerous because he's okay if the fight hits the ground because he has really solid jiu-jitsu. The only thing is when guys get his back, I think he tends to give up the submission or he has shown vulnerability. I think that's the better way to put it. He's shown vulnerability there if he gives up his back. I do believe he's had a loss by that. The only person who's actually submitted him was Pantoja. What are the odds that they're fighting again? And what are the odds that he gets rear naked choked again? I don't know. It's a tough one. With that said, I don't think there's much else that I can say about this. We know with Pantoja what you're gonna get. This guy is a marauder. He just comes forward. He just starts boha. That's just pretty much Pantoja in a nutshell. He just boha. Whole lot of boha, whole lot of gang shit. That's just what he comes to do. Looking for that rear naked choke. I think he was relatively sloppy in his fight with Brandon Moreno, where he had the back control multiple times on the takedowns, lost the position. And I'm not saying Moreno isn't good on the ground because he is. That was one of the things I loved about watching the baby assassin on The Ultimate Fighter. I thought his ground game was one of those more unique things that we haven't seen in a very long time from people. And to see him escape the way that he did against Pantoja, who is known, if he gets you back, he typically submits you or puts you out, man. It's just his MO, what he does, right? But Moreno was able to escape multiple times, and that makes me wonder, will Royval have done enough homework to correct those bad positions to not give up that submission if he does end up there? Because let's be honest, Royval is a freestyle fighter. He lets it go. He lets it hang out there. There's a good chance, a great opportunity that he's probably going to end up in that same position again. Now, the difference is, will he be able to escape this time, or will it be the same ending like their first visit? And that would be really shitty to kind of go out the same exact way against a guy now for the belt. Because if you lose this time, there is literally no other chance that you're going to get another crack at this guy anytime soon. I mean, we've seen it with Max Holloway. I know 125 is a little bit more thin than featherweight, but I just think you got so many other fun fights coming up. You got Makayev coming up. You got that kid Tiara coming up, Tatsuda Tiara, who just won. He's also 4-0 in the UFC now. Makayev undefeated in the UFC. Tim Elliott's coming back with a resurgence after losing to Makayev. So there's a couple of dogs in that way. You got Amir Albazi, and you got Brandon Moreno, who's fighting Amir Albazi. And who else? Nikolai. There's a couple other good guys, man. So if Royval comes up short and in the same exact way, if this is a barn burner fight, that door is still open, but he's got to make sure he steps up and performs. That's just my personal opinion. I don't make the rules. I don't make the fights. That's just something I just think it'll just make for a great fight, I think Pantoja, he's kind of wild. His striking ability is very good. He's tough. He's durable. He's willing to take three to give you one. That's very always impressive to see people who fight like that, because for me, I don't fight like that. Like I say, us brothers, we like to fight pretty. I like to touch and go, baby, touch and move. Like my boy Randy Brown, I like to touch and go. And then if I get my takedown, ooh, that was nice. That's my style, With that being said, Pantoja ain't like that. He's willing to slang them things, get in the pocket, and make it dirty. With that said, Royval's got to be slick. I think he's got to be careful with his spinning attacks, because if he spins too much, I know he likes to throw the spinning elbows, spinning back fist. He's done it before in a couple of the other fights, but he's got to be careful doing that because if he gives up his back, now he's in a vulnerable position where he could potentially lose the fight relatively quick, or he could end up giving up rounds where now he's getting rounds banked against him, and that's a tough position to be in. So you got to come into the title fight right out of the gate. Even if you're going to lose the first 2 rounds, you got to be putting money in the bank, whether that's investing in the body, investing in the calf kicks, investing in stuff that's going to pay dividends the later and the longer the fight goes. And that's what some of the things that I've been trying to work on and think about. What are some strikes that will like wear my opponent down little by little as the fight goes on, where it's so many shots to the body where they start to add up, so many shots to the calf where they start to add up. It's just like I'm not just aiming at all these random things. There's a purpose. And I think if Brandon Royval can do that and put money in the bank, invest somewhere early. We all know Pantoja is up here. He's tough. He's durable. He ain't going nowhere. You're going to have to put him clean out. But what other attacks can Royval do to either scum Pantoja for a round or to invest and give himself a better opportunity when the later rounds come in for him to get this hand raised? Or will Pantoja just hit him with the Marauder, boha, 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 and just get him out of there? I don't know. I'm excited about this fight. It's a great pay-per-view to end the year, and I cannot wait. Now, we got Pantoja at a minus 175, and Royval is a plus 145. What you trying to do with it, though? What you trying to do? You trying to make some bread? What you trying to do? That's all I got for you. Next up, we got Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, baby. This is a great freaking fight. I don't know about you guys, but Wonder Man is 40 years old, and he's still kicking. Still doing all that karate type ish. You know what I mean? And I love that. I love that he's still going. I think he's coming off a win over Kevin Holland. It says retirement in round 4. I don't know if I can't remember seeing that. But before that, he lost to Bilal, and he lost to Gilbert Burns. Back to back. And before that, he beat Jeff Neal and Vicente Luque, who is also on the card fighting Garry. Ian Machado Garry. Is it Machado Garry? Machado Garry, yep. Got that right. This is a great card, man. There's so many fun fights on this. I could literally talk this all day. I do wish I had a co-host to kind of talk about this today, because then we could kind of bounce back and forth of how great and amazing this card is. Shavkat is just like this coming of, I hate bringing up like biblical things, but it's like the next coming of Moses, the next coming of Christ. That's the way people are kind of posing him, So this is a great opportunity for him to showcase himself to the world. If he wins this, that is huge. Shavkat is now a main player in that division. And now I feel like I got to kind of check to see exactly what these rankings are, because I don't know where they fall in line at. And I think that's very important. Wonderboy Thompson is 6. Shavkat is 5. Oh, so this is like, I thought it was going to be like an ascension, but not so much. Shavkat wins this. I think it solidifies him, and maybe, depending on how he does it, he might, I don't want to put this into the universe, but maybe the UFC is trying to use that as a way to leapfrog him over Belal Muhammad. If you ask me, Belal should have been fighting for a title yesterday. Colby Covington's fighting for that title, but I'm not the matchmaker. I don't make the rules. Sometimes the guy who's highest ranked doesn't get the next crack. I mean, we've seen that at my weight. Although people want to say I blocked Marab from fighting for a title when he was never offered a title, and 2, they already put the fight in place. So it's not like there was an option of saying, oh, you could fight your friend, even though I wasn't going to fight my friend. But there was never that option. Where for this, we've seen it time and time again. It's what have you done for me lately? And unfortunately for Belal Muhammad, although he had a really exciting fight, his last one, it looks amazing. Got a good finish over a strong competitor in Sean Brady. And people were trying to say Brady sucks, and then Brady comes out there and pretty much crushes Kelvin Gastelum. What are we talking about? Because you hate Bilal so much, you're going to try to shit on his performance and his opponent. Don't do that. I hate that. That is one of the most annoying things. Credit where credit is due. You guys were riding that Sean Brady wave until a guy you didn't like beat your guy. It happens. It's the fight game. Now, with that being said, Shavkat versus Wonderboy Thompson, Bilal should have been fighting for the title, but he's not. Now, if Shavkat beats Wonderboy, what happens in this situation? Does he get to leapfrog into a title shot over Bilal Muhammad? Or is Bilal now forced to fight Shavkat as a number one contender to get the next title shot? That would be so annoying and unfortunate if that is the case in the route that the UFC decides to go. I don't make the rules, man. I'm just here to tell you what I see. Look at Bilal. Look at him. His last loss was Jeff Neal by decision. He is on a 1, 2, 3, 4, no contest, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fight win streak. Come on. I remember when Jim Miller was on a crazy run like that and he never got the title shot. And then they gave him Nate Diaz. And Nate Diaz choked his ass out. And it was unfortunate because Jim Miller deserved a shot at the title. Whether or not you're going to say he didn't beat a number one contender or a top 5 guy, 10 fights, 9 fights in a row is absurd, bro. It is absurd. What else are you supposed to do? Clean out the division? Give me my freaking bucket hat and my freaking scouring pad and let me go to work and clean the division, because that's exactly what Bilal is doing. And I don't know. I just think it is what it is. All I can do is put that information in front of you guys. You guys take with it and do with it what you will. Shavkat, he seems to be a solid grappler. We haven't seen too much grappling from him, but he seems to be a solid grappler. But his striking is what everyone's really, really fascinated by. But people were also fascinated by Jorge Masvidal, and then he ran into Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, albeit that was like 4 or 5 years ago. Now I gotta verify that because that was a long time ago. But that's why things are so different now. He beat Jorge in, where is it? I just saw his name. 2017. Wow. It's almost 6 years ago. So he beat Jorge then, and Jorge was looking like a man on fire. And sidekick, kicked him off of it. He kicked Masvidal off of his feet as Masvidal was coming in. Sidekick, boom. Masvidal fell backwards. That is crazy to me. To do that to an elite striker like Masvidal, I was just very impressed by that. I mean, that's really hard to do in general, and that's really hard to do over a high-level striker like Jorge Masvidal. Whether you guys want to say, oh, he's a journeyman. Stop. What is a journeyman? What is a journeyman who has fought for a world title multiple times? What is a journeyman that has fought the who's of the division and has won more than 50% of those fights? What is that? The guy's literally been in the street backyard fights and whooping a ton of ass. And people want to call him a journeyman. That's just weird to me. It's just weird energy. I think Shavkat could go out there and show his striking ability and get an exciting finish over a guy like Wonderboy Thompson. Yo, dude, he's now in that conversation for a title shot. And that's what's so... It bums me out for Bilal just because I'm like, dog, I feel you. I feel you on that. I know you earned what you earned, and you may not get it because of this, and that's just the way the game goes. But yeah, that's a fun fight. If he does get past Wonderboy, Shavkat and Bilal, or if Shavkat even fights for the title against the winner, there's just a lot of possibilities. But I think Bilal's been talking a lot of crap now lately. And, I mean, he's always talked crap before, but I think now it's starting to get some really good traction, especially after that last win. People were trying to call him boring. He got a TKO finish. I don't know if that's boring, but it ain't to me. Wonderboy, though, he wins. My man just turned back the whole freaking clock. My man is Doctor Strange. My man deserves to get back to fight one last time for a world title before he retires. At 40 years old, I don't know how much longer he plans to fight, but he beat Shavkat, the next coming of Moses that can walk on water. How can you not give a title shot to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson? And this is why not giving Bilal the title shot is causing a cluster at the top of this division. Because now, if you have these hypothetical scenarios happen, you have a logjam. Now, what do? You're going to have to kill off a contender and make them fight each other in another mini tournament. Bilal, Shavkat or Wonderboy, and then the winner of Woodley, Edwards, and Colby Covington. So now you got this weird situation that's kind of going on. And, of course, you got Kamaru Usman, who's still right there as well. So it just kind of creates this weird thing. I do feel if they were able to turn around Leon Edwards a bit earlier or giving Bilal the title shot next and then maybe Colby fought one other. It just, I don't know. That's not my job, man. That's the UFC's job, not mine. Now, Shavkat Rakhmonov is a minus 520 favorite. Wonderboy Thompson, as per DraftKings Sportsbook, is a plus 390 underdog. That is live money if you ask me. You're talking about a veteran. Obviously, I know what Shavkat is capable of, but then the Jeff Neal fight is the one fight that has me scratching my head and rubbing my chin and saying maybe there's a possibility that Wonderboy could come away with the win. The only X factor that I'm seeing is if Rakhmonov has difficulty trying to find Wonderboy on the feet with his strikes, he could turn to his grappling. Now, I love Wonderboy. He's my guy. But let's be real here. That grappling, we all know, is almost non-existent. For whatever reason, it just never seemed to have taken for him. He's just never been able to take to it to make it a thing that can really ascend his well-roundedness. But we know when it comes to striking, kickboxing, Wonderboy is the guy. He is the guy. So that's what makes this interesting to me. I don't know how great of a grappler Shavkat Rakhmonov is, but I can tell you one thing is his striking is solid. But I can tell you that his grappling is definitely a bit above the level of Wonderboy, and that could be the deciding factor for him to get his hand raised if he needs to make that change and go that route in order to finish the job. Now, remember, you guys can go to DraftKings Sportsbook, download, new customers only, bet $5, win $150 in bonus bets instantly. Bonus bets instantly. Why is it like a tongue twister for me? Win $150 in bonus bets instantly. Because we teamed up, man. Now, I think you could bet on anything. Yeah, bet $5 on whatever you bet it on. You're going to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. So go ahead and get that bread, bro. Go ahead and go get that bread. Guys, I'm going to have to do this one more time at the very end. So bear with me. This is part of the game, you know? Trying to keep the lights on. Trying to keep the lights on. Next up. Boom, boom, boom. This is such a great card. I mean, Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett. Let's start with the DraftKings Sportsbook odds, just to go. Tony Ferguson is a plus 285 underdog. Paddy Pimblett is a minus 360. Pretty solid, pretty big odds, I would say. Now, let's go down memory lane. Refresh you guys' memory about Tony Ferguson. 39 years old. His birthday's coming up in February. He's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fight losing streak. One would imagine if he loses this is his head on a chopping block. And it happens. We've seen it with BJ Penn. We've seen it when the UFC tries to give these guys as many layups as they can. I wouldn't say any of the guys he's faced were layups, though. He fought Gaethje, lost by TKO. Charles Oliveira, he lost by decision. I'm actually surprised by that one, that one went to a decision. But that's still like after his very first loss, which was to Gaethje. That broke his winning streak. He then lost to Beneil Dariush by decision. And then from there, it kind of gets worse. He lost to Michael Chandler, obviously the front kick, but it was competitive before that. That was in round 2. Then he lost to Nate Diaz in round 4, where Tony started to me, look a little bit slower in his movements. Didn't look like the same guy. And then Bobby Green, head and arm triangle, in a fight that was, I don't want to say it was competitive, but it was, Tony didn't look all that bad. Now he's taking on this guy in Paddy the Body, Pimblett. He's 28 years old. He's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, I couldn't believe it. I had to count it again. 7. Oh no, he's on a bigger win streak than that. So he lost to this cage. He lost to the Cage Warriors, and then he got signed. No, he came back. He rematched the guy. I was about to say that's very weird. So he lost that one, came back. Cage Warriors, he won, and then he won again, and then he got signed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fight win streak versus a guy who's on a 6 fight losing streak. That's very, I don't know, man. That's a tough one. The way I look at this is Tony Ferguson, this is do or die. I know he's been training with David Goggins. Goggins, you're the man. I just got to be honest. I don't know what that training looked like. So I can only speak from what my mind is wandering. And if it's anything adding to the craziness of what Tony already does, I can't see how that helps. I think Tony needs more of a camp where he's focused on doing what he's good at, and it's being unpredictable, getting guys to run into stuff, utilizing his jab, his kicks, getting guys to catch kicks. He takes them down, or they take him down. They end up in his guard. He starts to cut them up with elbows. Tony Ferguson, El Cucuy, creating chaos. Vintage Tony Ferguson is what he does. It's just being durable, inflicting pain, and eventually gets guys to wilt. Now, I think guys are starting to catch on to that, clearly. 6 fight losing streak. But I'm just not sure what the David Goggins angle is exactly, and how does that actually help? I really don't know. I can't call it. It's unfortunate, though, because I really do enjoy watching Tony Ferguson fight. But at 39 years old, the time is going to pass. Father Time is passing us all by. I'm getting that effect. I'm starting to feel that pressure from behind. Pause. Wow. Hey, yo. My man. Pause. I'm starting to feel the pressure from the doors closing behind me. Much better. Yeah, that was crazy. So I can only imagine what Tony Ferguson is feeling like from being on top of the world and then going on this historic run for himself. Has got to feel like just like, the Michael Chandler fight was competitive, the Bobby Green fight was competitive. But then to come up short and get finished in both of those, he's got to feel like I need to get one more where he can rest easy, rest at peace, and feel like he gave it all he could in his last showing at the UFC. And I think he could beat Paddy. I think this is a lose-lose for Paddy, because if Paddy loses this, it's just like, oh, you lost to Tony Ferguson. That's what the casual fans are going to say, as if Tony's not a veteran, as if he doesn't have that dog in him. He's shown that dog. It's just of late, he's just been on a shitty run, and it has not looked good. But to lose to Tony Ferguson, I mean, you're losing to me, a freaking legend. I don't think that's all that I don't think that's all that bad. But if Paddy wins, it's also, well, you beat Tony Ferguson. But depending on how it looks, he's going to acquire that Tony Ferguson fan base who are tuning in to watch El Cucuy. El Cucuy is still the man. Still got a big name. People still love Tony. I love Tony. Don't get me wrong. I just think if he doesn't have a good performance in this one, it's going to be about that time to look himself in the mirror and really ask himself the question is, hey, I think it's time I hang these gloves up. And it sucks to say that. It sucks to see it. but he has to have a good performance. Otherwise, I think that's going to be the next best move. Now, this thing with David Goggins, maybe he's got him running more, but running doesn't win you fights unless your job is to just tire the guy out and let him beat you up as a punching bag. And eventually, when he slows down, that's when you get him. I mean, that's not a very great style for longevity, and especially at age 39 for Tony Ferguson, who's been in a lot of wars, has some tough finishes, and eaten a lot of big shots of late. So, it sucks, man. I don't like being the guy who's like harping on one of the legends or anything like that. But it's just one of those things that this is reality. This is where we're at. I think Ferguson really needs to stay tunnel vision, locked in, bring back the old El Kukui. And again, David Goggins, respect to you, man, but I just don't know if you're teaching him any fundamental stuff to kind of get back to what made Tony Ferguson Tony Ferguson. He's never been like the strongest, fastest guy, but he's been tough. He's always been a dog, and he brings it, man. And that's what I always enjoyed about watching Tony Ferguson fight, because I was like, most of those fights, I feel like he was either losing or didn't look good in, or would get dropped and come back and just beat the brakes off of guys and make them quit. Make them quit. Vintage Tony Ferguson. So I'm hoping he goes out in as good of a way as he can. I'm not saying he's going to win. This is a tough fight against a very young dude. But if there's anyone who leaves their chin up that Tony Ferguson could possibly find a big shot on, it's got to be Paddy Pimblett. That's what this fight, for me, is very interesting to see what's going to happen. It's a bit unique. Can Tony Ferguson get back to his old vintage form on December 16th and get his hand raised? Vicente Luque versus Ian Machado Garry. We got to do this one. I think they're also on the main card. If I'm not mistaken, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the main card. Bryce Mitchell and Josh Emmett, I think they might be on the main card for a 6-fight main card for a pay-per-view. I never really see that. It's usually 5, but they could be also. But let's just say that Ian Garry is the main card opener against his former training partner. I'm not going to call him a friend. I'm going to say they're training partners. There's a difference between friends and training partners. Friends are people that hang out and do stuff with each other. They know each other's family and whatnot. Very, very different. Marab and I, we're friends. We hang out. We train together. We're also training partners. We do stuff with each other. We travel to different countries with each other. Ian Garry and Vicente Luque, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but they ain't doing that shit. They're just not. So this MO of friends can fight, yeah, they can. If they're not really friends, then cool. Or maybe just people are just different. They have different moral beliefs and values, and that's okay too. My slave owner is not the dollar bill. I don't have a slave owner. Maybe Uncle Sam, I guess, maybe. But other than that, I don't have a slave owner, and I would never sell out like that for a couple $1,000. It's just be silly to me. I don't know. I'm in a different place in my life, and maybe that's why Marab and I are so cool, because we came up together and we both earned money together, making money and buying houses and living with each other and buying houses next door to each other. Like, we're friends. Now, this situation with Machado versus Luque, very, very different. I like this because they're pushing a narrative that training partners can't fight, which is cool. I'm okay with that. Training partners can fight. Go ahead, have a blast. Beat the crap out of each other for all I care. I'm going to tune in and watch regardless. Now, whether or not these guys are boys, how often they train with each other, we do not know. This is all speculation. All we can do is go by hearsay of what they say and what they've talked about. And I think this is a unique fight. I think this is an opportunity for Machado to look, for Ian Garry to look really good against Vicente Luque. We know Luque is tough. He's durable. But I think Father Time, let me not say Father Time. I just don't think Luque has looked as great of late in his last few fights. I know he beat RDA, looking at it right now, but he lost to Jeff Neal and lost to Bilal Muhammad by decision. But he lost to Jeff Neal by finishing. I can't remember exactly how that fight went. But I just don't. I just remember him not looking the greatest in that fight. But he's got great calf kicks. He is durable. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He can finish fights on the ground if he gets to that position, gets to his darts. I think he's got like 2 or 3 dart strokes finishes. Michael Chiesa, Tyron Woodley, 2 dart strokes back to back. And some other fights in the UFC, Alvaro Herrera, dart stroke 3. Now, Garry's got good footwork, good probing, lead hand, long, lanky. He's got good reach. Now, the only thing is, Luque's reach is 76. Garry's is 74. Oh, so he's not going to have the reach event in this one, but he's 6'3". And Luque is 5'11". 5'11". So that's going to favor the side of Ian Garry. I'm very interested to see this approach. Is he going to kind of look at the training sessions and think like that's going to be, both of these guys think that's going to what the fight's going to be like? I always say the fight is the fight. Training is training. It's not the same. Some people put so much emphasis on the training sessions and thinking like that's the end all be all. Guys, you take these shin pads off. You put the 4-ounce gloves on. You take the headgear off. These land for real. These shins land for real. These knees, no knee pads, no elbow pads. It's different when you're getting hit with those type of punches and those type of strikes. For real. When there's no protection and you're getting cracked to the body, to the solar plex, to the liver, getting cracked to the calf with no protection on whatsoever, you feel everything. And that, to me, is what changes from the training room to the fight. So you can have all the great sessions you want. You take everything off. How well is your pain threshold? Can you have more adrenaline rush to numb that pain against this opponent who you think you might be better than because of the training room? And now he potentially hits you with one shot where it catches you in the eyeball, in the eye socket. And instead of the puffy gloves or the boxing gloves, the 4-ounce gloves, he gets a knuckle in there. Now that eye is swollen shut. You never dealt with that in the training room. Now you get kicked to the calf 2 or 3 times, and now you can't walk because you never dealt with that in the training room. It's different. Training and sparring, fight simulations. But it's not the real deal. It's not the end all be all. It doesn't give you that bread and butter, that feeling of what you feel from a nerve perspective, from a pain threshold perspective, from a mental perspective, being able to tap into that beast in that dog to want to continue when you're in a tough spot with everyone watching, the camera's on, the light from above shining on top of you, and you feel that heat. It's just very, very different. And that's why I think people put so much emphasis on the training, but it's not the end all be all. People put so much emphasis on you get the better of this guy in the training session. I'm like, dude, just because I got the better of the training session don't mean I necessarily would win in a fight, because things change. The whole dynamic changed. The rules change. Now we're going. So with that said, I don't know how this fight looks. I don't know who's been getting the better of each other. I think Machado, Ian Garry's a little bit cleaner, better footwork. I think Vicente Luque is more of that dog. He's willing to get into that fight. Garry doesn't get hit all that often. He's been cracked and wobbled before. I can't remember if he got dropped. But I know he's been cracked and wobbled before and came back, and I believe he finished the guy. But it's just one of those things. I don't know anything about their training sessions, so I can't really speak on that. But Ian Garry is the guy who's everyone's high on right now. Luque is a plus 295. Ian Garry's a minus 375 as per DraftKings Sportsbook. So again, I can't call it. I'm really unsure about this one. If I were to bet, I'm leaning towards Ian Garry because I just think his style overall, he takes less damage and he's able to inflict more damage. I mean, the beating he put down on Neil Magny was something beautiful. That was, I mean, you don't see a lot of guys do that to Neil Magny. And the way he was able to kind of piece him up and do all that and just put the finishing touches on him, I thought that was very, very impressive from Machado. I keep calling him Machado. His name is Ian Garry. I think that went to a decision, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, unanimous decision. Should have been a finish. But yeah, that was a beatdown. That was a beatdown. With that said, I really don't know. It's hard for me to call that one. It's going to be a fun fight, though. But I told myself I wasn't going to talk about this, but I have to now. Ian Garry has all this other chaos going on around him right now in the world. This whole thing about his wife. His wife is a wag. She wrote this book. Now, I don't know if she wrote the book because I never actually did the research to go look. I saw people post pictures and say that she wrote the book, How to Be a Wag. Wife and girlfriend. I don't even know what that means. What does that mean? I looked up the definition and it's just, I'm like, so is that wife that you're dating, is she also your wife? Or is the wife a wife of somebody else? Because they were talking about her ex-husband, and I don't know. That whole thing is just weird to me. She's still a wife, but she's also the girlfriend, but she's married to Ian. So I'm just kind of confused by the whole thing. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Obviously, the optics of it doesn't look great. There's going to be a lot of trolls out there trying to get in Ian's head, just trying to get him riled up because people are just shitty people. That's just what we deal with in this life today. I know people are going to say, like, grow thick skin. Yeah, you can have thick skin, but it's just people still being shitty people, regardless of how you want to slice it. Call it whatever you want to call it. You're still being a shitty person for doing stuff like that. I had the whole thing whenever I posted anything with my family, my fiance. I had people attacking myself. I had people attacking them, have them calling them out their name, racial slurs, threatening violence. And the only scary thing is these people know what we look like. So if we're walking down the street, they recognize us. And the trolls and people who are behind the computer screen, the one advantage that I would say that they have is we don't know what you guys look like. And that bothers me. That is the only thing that bothers me because it's the unknown uncertainty. And that's why, even till this day, since that whole craziness with Jan in the first fight, people think that I'm freaking faking, that I got blasted in the knee. I'm exhausted and I got blasted in the head. I'm malnourished because I didn't rehydrate the right way. And I've only said it 1,000 times. And people are telling me that I'm acting and faking. Yeah, I seen the video. It looks like shit. It looks like I'm acting and faking. I even think it looks like that. But I know how I felt. Only I can tell the truth on something like that. And I would never, ever try to take an easy way out. Even though in hindsight, if I were to say this is option A versus option B, that's just not in my characteristics. I don't do that. But whatever. After that situation, I get very uneasy around people these days. And even my fiance, she tells me all the time, it's like, don't be so awkward. You're like being weird around. She's like, why are you acting like that? She has to remind me. And I'm like, yo, I just don't, I'm very uncomfortable around mass group of people because I know for a fact when it's a group of people come from all over the world and I'm at these events, a lot of the times, a lot of the people I'm talking to are some of the people who probably threaten my fucking family and myself. And that's not cool. So for me to be sitting there and smiling in your face and pretending like we're boys or like I'm super chill with you because you're telling me, oh, I'm a big fan. Nah, dog. I got to protect myself. And the only way I can protect myself is I got to kind of have like some type of guard up because I don't know what you're willing to do or capable of doing. You know what I mean? It's just people are just weird these days. You can't put anything past anybody. And I try to be respectful and give the benefit of the doubt, but it's still like, it's just embedded in me now from when I was a young kid growing up. And now you have this kid now in this fame spot. And I have to deal with this. So you get uneasy because you just don't know who's real, who's fake. And you have to protect yourself, right? You have to protect your mental peace. You got to protect your physical peace. And although I used to love taking pictures with the fans and interacting, not everyone's bad. But there are some shitty people out there who go out of their way to write some nasty stuff, and you don't know if they're for real or not. And that's the part that bothers me. So forgive me for trying to make sure I'm minding my P's and Q's. And I can only imagine for a guy like Ian, he's got people now attacking his wife, talking shit about his baby. And I talked to him at the PI this past week, and I seen him. We're in the locker room. I don't know if this is something that I shouldn't talk about, but this is the type of person that I am. He's in there. It wasn't super packed, so I thought, like, I'm probably never going to have another opportunity to run into him again. So let me just, yo, Ian, what's good? Like, how's your day going? Oh, it's good, brother. You know, everything's great, going great, you know, blah, blah, blah. I know, but, you know, how you doing? Yeah, everything's fine, but I'm good. How are you? I'm like, no, no, no. I know you're doing good, but, like, how are you doing with everything that's going on? Because I relate to that. I know what that's like to feel like the world is against you when you didn't even do anything wrong. Now, people can say that he's brought it on himself because of his persona or personality, but that's different from attacking his wife and his family. That's completely different. You don't have to be a shitty person to stoop that low to do that. I know they say all's fair in love and war, but what war does the world have against Ian Garry? It's just weird to me. It's so weird. And we spoke about that, and, you know, he told me thank you for asking, because it's just, I feel that, like, not a lot of guys are checking in on their fellow peers. And we're not boys or anything, but I just feel it was necessary. I felt compelled to reach out to him and ask him how he was doing, because that's a tough time, man. That's got to be a tough time. I know what that's like, and I can only see, like, my sisters had to put their pages on private to stop the harassment. They told me not to tag them and stuff to stop the harassment. And yes, man, the world is not a nice place. I've never said it was. But I just don't get how people can be such shitty people to go out of their way to antagonize people. And then they're the same ones that you see in person telling you that they're big effing fans. It is the most bizarre thing. And then you can see where my uneasiness comes from, where it's like, yo, I don't know if you're genuine or if you're looking to do something sneaky for clout or for video. And that's where things get dangerous, where I don't walk around with security guards. I could handle my own, but it's annoying to have to always feel like I need to always be on edge anytime I'm out in public. That's the only thing that I hate about this whole thing. But other than that, I think that's a very tough situation for Ian Garry to be in coming into the fight. And he said, like, basically, I got to go do what I got to do and remind people that this is what I am, this is what I do, and kind of keep it separate. And hopefully people can give him a break, you know? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that whole thing is. It is what it is. Hopefully he has a good performance. You know, I like Luque as well. I just hope it's a good fight. May the best man win. I don't have a dog in the race. But yeah, it's just a shitty situation to have to go into a huge fight on a huge card, end of the year, before the holidays, with that mental burden on your shoulders, man. Can you imagine? Like, there's a lot going on right now for him. There's a lot riding on this fight. Now, other notable fights, because we're already going over an hour. I don't want to make this super long. We got Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell stepping up like the dog he is, from Arkansas, baby, from Cersei. This is a big fight. I was honestly willing to take the fight against Josh Emmett. It wouldn't have been the smartest decision, but I was willing to do it because it's a payday before the holidays. Hey. And I could have actually made the weight. It wouldn't have been fun. I wouldn't have had as much fun as I did the last few days because I would have been training for a fight. But I would have liked to make my introduction to the featherweight division the right way, take my time, get a full training camp. This way, there's no excuses. I don't like to have excuses. There's always reasons why you lost, but I don't want those to be excuses, even if they're valid. At the end of the day, it's still an excuse, and I understand that. It would have been me just taking a shot, rolling the dice. And I do think I could give it a good fight. 3 rounds, short notice. I just don't think my gas tank would have been the greatest. And that was the only real deterrent for me. So thankfully, the UFC saved me from myself, and Bryce Mitchell saved me from myself, and he stepped in and didn't allow me to make a rash decision that could have been a really, really bad mistake. Because Josh Emmett is a tank, man. He's a dog. Irene Aldana versus Kyle Rosa. That's an interesting one. Irene Aldana, I think she looked really good when who did she fight? She fought someone she looked really good, but she lost to Amanda Nunes and it didn't look good. Macy Chiasson. Okay. But yeah, when she fought Amanda, she just didn't open up. It was like a weird, I don't even know what that was. That was just strange. We'll see if she could get back on track with this one. Cody Garbrandt, Brian Kelleher, bantamweights, former champion in Cody Garbrandt, taking on Brian Kelleher, a former teammate that I used to train with over at Team Bomb Squad. Occasionally trained with him down in Long Island. Haven't really trained with him much in the last 3 years. So, yeah, this is a very interesting one. I don't know who's gonna win this. Kelleher had neck surgery. I think he had a fusion. I'm not sure if he got the same disc thing that I got. For some reason, I feel like he went with the fusion. I hope he didn't, because the fusion, you're gonna be right back there in a couple years, needing to get the next disc fuse. He's on a 2-fight losing skid. Mario Batista, rear naked choke finish, and Umar Nurmagomedov, rear naked choke finish. Now, if I'm Cody Garbrandt, I'm thinking if I utilize my wrestling and I could get this man down without getting caught in a guillotine, because Kelleher has a nasty guillotine, I'm thinking I could finish him by rear naked choke, just by the trend. You got to wonder when guys, who is it? Darren Cruikshank got rear naked choke, I think 3 or 4 times in a row. And I'm just perplexed because I'm just like, my brother, at what point does your coach say, hey, maybe we should work on the defense for this, because your opponent coming up might look at the other fights and think that this is the way to get you if I can get him there. Mind blown. It is the craziest thing. Because he's such a talented fighter, too. Darren Cruikshank was fun to watch, except when he got on the ground. He didn't know what the hell he was doing down there. Very, very odd. Cody Garbrandt on a 1-fight win streak right now, which snapped a 2-fight losing skid to Rob Font and Kai Kara France. Let's call it what it is. His fight against Trevor Jones was not what we expected, was not the most entertaining fight. But here's an opportunity. Kelleher goes forward. He has a dynamite of a left hook and catches guys with that when they least expect it. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. I'm looking forward to this one. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting fight. This will be huge for Garbrandt to get on a 2-fight win streak and kind of reassert himself in that top 15 picture if he can beat a guy like Kelleher. And if Kelleher could bounce back in a big way by beating a former champion, that is huge for his career. That is a great scalp to get to your resume. But I don't know. How's Kelleher going to look after being out for so long, losing 2 fights in a row? It's been a while since he's been on the winning side of things. He beat Kevin Kroom. I believe that was at 145. Took it on short notice by decision. His last fight, Mario Batista, June of 2022. That's a good fight. Let's get the odds on that one, actually. Why not? The odds are... Wait, where is it? Why is it... Oh, okay. Minus 205 for Cody Garbrandt and plus 170 for Brian Kelleher. Now, Casey O'Neill, she's back. She's taking on Irene Lipsky. Ooh. Oh, that's who this girl was. Queen of Violence is her name. I seen her around the PI. I call her the Elbow Queen by accident. My bad. Good fight. Now, Manifield versus Jacoby. Oh, that is going to be a banger. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Cody Durden. Andre Fili versus Lucas Almeida. Shamil Gazav versus Martin Boudet. And Salikov versus Randy Brown, the card opener. Touch and go. Damn, this is a huge card. Randy Brown's on the freaking opener. It's nuts. A lot of good fights, man. I'm pumped about this. I hope you guys are too. There's a lot of great stuff coming in. So we're gonna wrap it with that. I think we did more than enough talking. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Guys, please like, subscribe, drop a comment. Tell me who are your main card picks. I was gonna say maybe I'll put mine down. But then, yeah, I typically try not to bet because it gets weird. Because then I see these guys in the PI and they like, yo, Mo, you bet against me, unless it's like my boy, you know. So leave me your main card picks in the comments. Hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.